Howdy, folks, brothers and sisters. Welcome back to the podcast. We are happy to have you. Cathy is with us today. Cathy Kase. How are you doing, Kase?
I'm great. Thanks. How are you?
Okay. Thank you. I'd love to hear from you today. I'd love to hear what's deeply, what fire is burning, is unending in your heart today. And I just want to welcome everyone that's new to the podcast. This is the podcast about the matching and blessing. And for y'all single folks who want to get blessed or figure out what the blessing is, figure out what this matching process shebang is all about. And if that's you, I want to welcome you. This is the only place in the multiverse that we're aware of that is about matching blessing. So stick around. And but today we're going to highlight this young lady of four, which is a beautiful thing to say, of four children. And you just moved your family up to Michigan. Is that right?
Did, yeah. It's a big move. But the kids are really enjoying it. We're much closer to family, and my family's just about a 45-minute drive to Canada from here. So it's been really a blessing to have my family and my parents and my brothers and sisters coming every week.
That's amazing. So your family lives 45 minutes away, or Canada lives 45 minutes away?
They're 45 minutes away to the border of Ontario, and then another 20 minutes to get to where they live from the border.
That's incredible. Wow. So you get the best of both worlds, America and family.
Exactly.
All right, cool. Well, let's dive into it. What do you have that you want to share with our individuals that are single and preparing for this blessing thing?
Yes. Okay. Well, so you, Benji, always asks, what's on your mind? What's on your heart? But every time I ask, what do you want to talk about for this podcast? And I always, of course, revert to my work as a matching supporter and a blessing interviewer, and kind of thinking about what's been the common theme lately in the matching world.
Absolutely.
And, most recently, I've got a couple of cases of candidates who have begun a conversation with another. And of course, in their talks, there's always the question of how much of divine principle or how much of a life of faith do you have that is yours, not just your parents. And it's a really, it's a sometimes for a lot of people, it's a make or break question, depending on how they answer, depending on who the candidates are, right? When you're filling out your matching form, they're always asking you, what is your level of faith? Are you flexible? Are you traditional? Are you compromising? Or and what level of faith do you want to see in your future spouse that you're looking for? Is it similar to yours, or a more traditional spouse, or more compromising or flexible partner? So it's and then a lot of people will write something, right? You might think yourself as traditional because you were raised in this faith, and you have certain expectations and traditions that you exhibited in your family. But another person's level of what that looks like could be something very different. And so I had this one case of a brother who they were talking for about 3 weeks in their introduction phase, and they decided to commit to another 7 month communication. But during the 7 months, the harder questions are asked, right? Like, what is your perspective on the intergen matchings, or what is your perspective on divine principle, and how does it apply to you? And this candidate was a little thrown off because, most of his life, he didn't realize it, but most of his life, his faith was his parents and his siblings. And what they thought kind of just shaped what he's been thinking and believing in. But when pressed with more difficult questions about, like, no, I don't want to hear what your family thought, I want to know what you think. Then this brother's like, well, I think this way. Is that right? Like he's kind of saying, I believe in this, but is that correct? Like, I feel like it's really important that when you're pursuing the matching, that you own your faith, not just parroting what you've been hearing from lectures and parents and siblings and friends, but really own why you believe in certain aspects of our faith, and maybe why not in some other areas. but have an explanation for why you think that way because of, that really digs down as to how this was shaped.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I wanted to dive into today
Mm.
is what are we looking for in a unificationist, faithful spouse when you're searching for someone in this era?
Yeah. Okay, let's do that. So I have a question first for you.
Go ahead.
As someone that is happily blessed and has been doing this matching sporting for a while, what is it about this situation of people trying to figure this out? What is it about it that frustrates you?
So, as someone who is happily blessed and wanting the same for other people,
Hmm.
it's frustrating to see blessings after maybe even a decade
Mm.
of one spouse wanting to disconnect from the church after having already been blessed,
Hmm.
after having going through all the ceremonies and bringing your children and teaching them somewhat of going to church, understanding your parents, but then all of a sudden that is now broken. And now one spouse doesn't want to have anything to do with the faith. And yet the other spouse is like, wow, I didn't really sign up for this. I wanted a spouse that believes in true parents' vision, that believes in the blessing. So I feel like it's really important to understand the difference between faith in our true parents versus the church politics that happens. For a lot of people, it's very hard to separate those two.
Mm.
So I think it's really important to understand and talk about these things. Like, what is your faith? Is that the same as how you view your parents, or or did some of your resentment that stemmed from your parents is that, or your or church politics, or whatever it is? If they have any resentment, what is it about that that's stopping you from believing fully in principle or true parents or the blessing? So to me, it's frustrating when a lot of these things don't don't get discussed early, and then you go to the blessing, you give hope to your spouse that okay, we're going to work towards an ideal family. But then when things get a little bit rough and things are being shaken up in our movement, that yeah, you kind of let room for doubt and negativity, and now it's becomes unstable within your couple.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I imagine it's frustrating for sure, right?
Mhm.
To see that unfold before your eyes when you're trying to help people. Why do you feel like that happens though? That someone can go 100% in this direction, right?
Mhm.
Committed to the blessing, standing in front of mother and father, saying, I'm committed to this in front of Heavenly Parent. And then a few years later, 100% running in the opposite direction. How does that
Right,
happen?
right. I honestly think a lot of people go to the blessing not being 100% committed to
Mm.
God and true parents. I think a lot of people go to the blessing to get blessed and to get married, but not necessarily to be rooted in this faith. And we do what we can. We encourage people to um, understand their a bare minimum of divine principle, right? In order for you to become an actual matching candidate, you need to have an understanding of principle. You need to do your level one, your level two, and then go to your level three, all of these things. But sometimes I'm afraid that people are just checking off boxes that I just want a husband. I just want a wife.
Uh-huh.
And everyone in this church is pretty good. They're good people. So I want someone from this church, but
I
I
just
don't
want a husband
necessarily
too.
want to do the whole church thing. And so I'm not going to sugarcoat it. A lot of people do this,
Mm.
and it frustrates me because you're looking for a spouse and you think that this is it and they're committed to God and true parents, and then now you're living a blessed life, and then it's like, oh, but now all of a sudden it's become a half in, half out thing. You weren't actually fully committed. You said you were, but you really don't want to do the work to maintain it.
Mm.
So that could be one reason, and is that you were never fully committed to this faith to begin with. And then the other reason just could be a lot of especially second gen who have had a lot of resentments to their parents or the church in general.
Mm.
I think they let that, I guess, infest their mentality in regards to any hope with with fixing it, or it's hard for them to forgive. It's hard for them to understand. They think they're trying to, but a lot of times it just creeps in this negativity or this resentment towards their parents or the church, and they just can't forgive. They don't know how to do that, and so they think it's everything that happened that's bad in their life was because of the church.
Mm.
And if the blessing is going great, oh yeah, the church is great. But then the blessing starts to go down. Oh man, it's because my parents said this or two parents did that. They didn't show a good example, whatever,
Mm.
right? It is that they're talking about. So if you cannot break out of that victim mentality, or at least learn how to forgive and understand people's situations, right? It's going to be very hard for you to move forward, and bring God back into the picture. Because victimhood is selfishness. It's very difficult to move out of that if you think everything that's happening is because of everyone else's fault.
Mm. Negativity likes to spread. Shadows like to
No,
spread.
that's
That's
right.
that's just conflating things. Like negativity is just it's Satan, it's Lucifer, all of it's Adam and Eve, it's the fall all over again. It's just
That's
shifting
right.
from one thing to another. So here's the dilemma that I'm seeing. We have this desire, mother has this desire to bless everyone. Okay? And according to this conversation we're having and the definition of somebody with faith that we're portraying here, 8 billion people don't qualify yet
Right.
for in terms of having the extent of faith in heavenly parent your parents that is going to last long. So how do we have any resolution regarding this? Like in other words, can someone with that has their parents' faith or has not a solid 100% belief themselves receive the blessing?
So this has always been obviously a tough conversation to have, because I believe in the value of the blessing, and I do believe that everyone is entitled to receive the blessing. But of course, whatever happens to that blessing, it's never a guarantee. Just because you receive the blessing, it doesn't entail you
Mm.
to a good marriage,
Mm.
right? God will bless that marriage, but you still have your own responsibility to create a beautiful
Mm.
marriage.
Mhm.
Many people get blessed and it's just a blessing. Whatever happens to them, they could be fighting, there could be abuse, there could be a
Mm.
lot of things. So there's many blessed couples. So God has recognized your marriage once you receive the blessing. But now it's your responsibility to create a beautiful marriage out of that, because just receiving the blessing doesn't guarantee you a good marriage.
Yeah. I'm laughing because one of my favorite lines from someone that I frequently hear is, I don't want to get blessed because my parents didn't have a good blessing.
Oh my
Like, welcome to marriage, dude. Like, it's hard work.
Right.
This is like people suck at marriage. That's what's going on. It's not, it's,
Yeah, it's sad, but it's true.
it's kind of like saying, I don't want to get married because marriages end in divorce. It's like I'll be hurt,
Hmm.
or people conflate that with financial difficulty. They tout things like, oh, most marriages end in divorce due to finances, which is not true, remotely true. And yet, and so they're conflating those pain points with the outcome, and they don't have to have any association with each other whatsoever. It's like, well,
Right.
people are bad at marriage. That's what's going on.
Yeah.
And then they use
Yeah.
finances as the scapegoat to avoid responsibility, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, okay. So I really see this as a big point of almost contention in our faith because on the one hand, the heart of mother is let's bless everyone, which is a beautiful thing. Let's give
Hmm.
everyone grace. Let's give everyone forgiveness and let's let everyone into God's kingdom, into God's family to be a blessed family. It's a beautiful thing.
Hmm.
On the other
Hmm.
hand, I would say a more like fatherly approach is like, well, have you earned this blessing? What have you done with your life to be qualified to receive this privilege that is being gifted to you? you know?
Hmm.
And so it's a really hard thing, I think, for us to balance that and do that balancing act. I had a fundamental like belief change myself, Kathy, because my approach was always like, if you don't want to get blessed, then don't. Like that's how I've always mentored people. Even on this podcast, I've we started this podcast with that premise. Like, this is for you if you want to get blessed. If you don't want to get blessed, like, good luck, like figuring out life. But I was wrong about that. Let me tell you why. Because number one, of true mother's heart. There's a reason she wants to bless everyone. And number two, because of the spiritual ramifications of the blessing. The spiritual implications are that by nature of it being spiritual, we can't see the eternal effects. We cannot see the generational effects. So we are not the ones that can judge to say that this couple that, for example, doesn't understand the blessing to the extent that we would hope them to, right? Maybe goes through some things, have some difficulty, has some children, has some blessed children, and they distance themselves from the church, right? Perhaps they even break the blessing in divorce. They stop going to church, all these things. But how do we know that those children are not going to rise up, receive this blessing, and do incredible things with their lives? How do we know that their great grandchildren won't rise up and do incredible things for God's providence? We don't know that because we don't see the spiritual implications of things. And so my view has been shifted from only people that are ready for the blessing should get blessed to maybe there are some people that God is preparing generations from now, descendants that we don't know, because maybe if you can help one couple get blessed, even though they might not be fully ready to the extent that we'd hope them to, or maybe God even would hope them to, maybe there's some benefit down the road that we're not seeing yet. And maybe even if in their lifetime, because there is redemption for every affliction, there is grace for everyone and every couple. Maybe even in their lifetime, they can turn things around. And we just don't see that yet. And so I think like I was very limited in my view and very kind of harsh, unnecessarily harsh in my view. And now I've kind of accepted that, I don't know, like I will give my best to give brotherly advice to people. And my best brotherly advice is that if you're going to receive the blessing, it will do you wonders to have a solid understanding of who God is to you, who your parents are, what the blessing means to you, and to have no shadows and have integrity in your life. Like if you can do those things, you will be light years ahead for your lineage to have a foundation for children and to experience God at the deepest level possible on that foundation, right? That is my ultimate brotherly advice for people. But
Yeah.
I don't also know what might happen if a couple is just kind of getting together, struggling together, have some kids, divorce. I don't know what's going to happen to their children. They might rise up. You know, God works through incredible degenerates.
Yeah.
I don't know a better way to put that, but like
Mhm.
look at biblical history, you know? Like on the surface, we would chastise immediately and say like those people are just ungodly individuals. But you don't know how
Mhm.
God might be working. We don't know, and I have no idea. And so I
Right.
think I'm putting on a different lens when I'm kind of like mentoring or matching, supporting for people, and just
Yeah.
looking at it as like maybe on the surface it doesn't seem right, but
Mhm.
underneath when they actually get into it, we don't know how things might unfold. When I was blessed, you know, on the surface, absolutely the most unqualified person emotionally,
Mhm.
maturity wise, financially, career wise, 18-year-old, like what 18-year-old has anything put together in their lives? But if I just on the surface looked at myself and said, you know what, I'm not ready for the blessing, like absolutely not, then this whole life we've created for ourselves wouldn't exist if I was just looking at myself from my physical lens, or my parents were just looking at me from a physical lens of
Mhm.
what looks good or what might be good for our future. But we were like willing at the moment to just kind of put that aside and say, all right, doesn't look right at all, but it feels right. Something about it feels right. And thank God for that feeling because I can't have imagined a better life than we have right now. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, I definitely appreciate that shift of mindset because it gives flexibility, it gives grace, it gives a lot to really any person. Um, but it's still, there's still in me when I feel that yes, that brotherly advice is absolutely true that you're telling people if you receive the blessing, you center your marriage on God, you work on your shadows, you work on your integrity, you will be light years ahead. And that is the truth. Your children will have
Yeah.
a better, solid foundation. Now, can God still work if you don't do that? 100%. And you pointed that out. We see many examples of that. Children rising up generations after their painful mistakes of their own parents. Um, but from God's perspective, and even from the providential perspective,
Mm.
we've been waiting and waiting and waiting. We're still waiting, right? We're still waiting for the fruition of this kingdom, and it's finally happening, but it didn't happen overnight. So I remember one quote that Dr. Young was saying that two parents in one of their speeches said that it takes 7 generations to secure a permanent foundation for God.
Mm.
Now, just imagine if we keep delaying and delaying and delaying that foundation. Yes, it'll happen one day, but God's just going to keep waiting and waiting and waiting. So we really want everyone to have the best start. And I really think that is the parental heart. You want to give this blessing, but you want your children to take ownership over it. And you're hoping that it's sooner than later. But and of course it's frustrating, but are we going to kick anyone out of the kingdom because they don't get it right away? No. But it's just a parent's heart for them to catch on quicker
Mm.
so that there's less pain quicker in their path is kind of how I'm viewing this.
Yeah. Yeah. So what extent, Kathy? What extent, sister? What extent? Because regardless of where people are, listening to this, there are some people that are on the fence about the
Mhm.
blessing. They don't know. They honestly don't know if this is in the cards for them. And then there are people that are absolutely like, yeah, I'm 100% clear. I just don't know how to get there. I just don't know
Mhm.
who my partner, my spouse eternally is. And so for both of those camps, God bless you all. Like what is, I think we're wondering to what extent do we require a faith in this thing that we're doing to feel ready?
Well, I do believe everyone should go to the blessing.
Mm.
And whether you're ready or not, you should do the bare minimum because that's the only way you're gonna get your matching candidacy
Mhm.
through the BFM. But faith grows and faith evolves.
Mhm, mhm,
And I would just say, as once you receive that blessing and you feel that you want to take care of your spouse, it shouldn't even have anything to do in regards to religion or God or your parents. It's just your heart to want to love your wife or your husband. And you want to become the best for your wife and your husband. So even if you have to look at it that way, your wife and your husband deserves the best, and the only way you can love your spouse the best is by loving them the way God does. So in a sense, it's returning back full circle that if you want to have a successful marriage, whether you call it a blessing or not, just to become a successful husband or wife to your spouse and become a good God-centered mother or father to your future children, you need to be able to look at them and love them through God's eyes. And it's going to require effort.
mhm,
Whether you think that's external effort or internal effort, it's going to require both because, we are human beings that are both physical and spiritual. You need to be able to feed both. You need to feed your spouse's spiritual, emotional, and physical needs. And so whether you look at it as churchy or religious, it just requires maturation. And it's not going to happen overnight. There's a lot of, you said you were 18 and barely qualified emotionally and,
mhm,
you weren't
mhm,
fully ready. I think that's okay.
mhm,
And we shouldn't have our stuff 100% together before we feel like we can be qualified to receive the blessing. But as soon as you commit yourself to another, husband or wife, you have got to have a sense of, man, now I really need to actually level myself up, not just for yourself, but because you are now supposed to take
mhm.
care of another.
Yeah,
So that's kind of how I view this.
got it. Okay, so you describe kind of a maturity level or desire to love
A
over time.
desire.
Yeah,
That's right.
a willingness to learn to love, the willingness to essentially sacrifice and give up ourselves for our spouse and love them, right?
Mhm.
Uh, so on the faith extent, on the faith side of things, how would you kind of recommend someone to evaluate themselves of like how much they believe in the blessing, true parents, God, and how much do they need to have faith before they feel like, okay, I'm faithful enough?
Um, so the way you gauge that is obviously it's going to be impossible, right?
Mm.
Because people view faith from different perspectives. And what I view as a faithful person is probably going to be considered as extreme from your regular
Lay it
person.
on us. Lay it on us.
But um, I think when I look at someone who has, I guess, a deep level of faith, that it's not about how many divine principle lectures they've given or can understand or how many workshops they've done. What I see as a faithful person is someone who can show deep gratitude to true parents and their parents.
Mm.
Not just someone who said, yeah, my parents did this and they just want me to go this way, just kind of nonchalantly talking about the blessing. But when they can, genuinely express gratitude to what their parents have done and what true parents are doing, that is a level of faith that is commendable. For someone to realize, yeah, they don't know everything about the principle, they don't need to, but their gratitude will take them through.
Yeah.
And I think that should be present in
Mm.
in your spouse. And when they have that sense of gratitude to their parents and to true parents, I think it's a good enough foundation to build something phenomenal in their marriage and their blessing.
Got it. Yeah, I love it. I personally like that because it shifts the conversation from theology and intellect of my understanding to a character trait of like,
Mm,
are you someone that experiences more positivity than negativity, more gratitude than
right,
blame, right? More
right.
appreciation than contempt in your life.
Hmm.
And that's an indicator that someone is of a certain stature that is going to, over time, become more grateful, right? Because
Mm,
gratitude breeds gratitude, and blame and negativity breeds negativity, as we've been talking about. And so I think that, yeah, that's an indicator of a wise person. For me, I would couple gratitude with the character trait of curiosity. I think
mm,
curiosity covers a lot of bases in terms of faith.
yes.
If somebody's curious, it actually matters a lot less to what extent somebody believes in something, because over
Hmm.
time they will search for answers in a genuine way, not in a skeptical way,
Yes.
right? And so in some ways it's like you can't have a full understanding of the blessing until you get blessed and practice it, you know?
Right.
If Because if we're waiting around saying like, oh, okay, I'm not 100% understanding the blessings, like, well, you shouldn't be, because you
Hmm.
have never experienced it before.
Hmm. That's
You're like,
right.
you could be a five-star chef, but if you've never served anyone your food and gotten feedback on how
Mm.
good or bad you are at cooking food, no matter how many courses you've taken and how many YouTube videos you watched or Instagram reels on how to cook food, it doesn't matter unless you
That's
practice
right.
that stuff in real life and get some feedback on honestly how good are you at this
Hmm.
blessing thing, you know?
That's right.
And so, I mean, I was a 5-star A+ student as an 18-year-old, but in practice, I was like, I don't know, I was just a floundering fish trying to survive out of water. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing here. My wife is not any bit remotely close to what I thought a woman should be like. She's totally not what I expected. She doesn't like any of the things that I thought
A
women
girl would
like.
like.
Like flowers, for example. She's like, I don't, she's like, why are you getting me flowers? But women like flowers. She's like, I don't like flowers. Because apparently in Japan, um, the demographic of people that buy flowers is not men. In America, it's men. Men buy flowers for women, right?
Uh-huh.
In Japan, women buy flowers for the house. That's the key demographic, right? And she's like, why?
Interesting.
She's like, why are you giving me flowers? Just a cultural thing, right? Or like holding hands, that kind of thing. Just different.
Uh-huh.
Like because I grew up in the West where everything is there's like a mold. Like women like this. Women
Yeah.
love when you touch them in this way. Women love when you hold their hand and when you say I love you every day. They love it. It's like my wife doesn't like that. She doesn't like when you say I love you because it's just words.
Mm.
And so I can honestly say like my blessing like spiel pitch for people is like I have retroactively turned every negative thing about my wife that I hated into something I absolutely love. That's the blessing
Wow.
to me. And I have done that over the course of 15 years. Every single thing that at the beginning I was like, I hate this about her, that she doesn't like physical touch. She doesn't like saying kind things to me, like words of affirmation. She doesn't like any of the same things I like. She doesn't like being adventurous, right?
Mm,
All of those things, every single line by line, I can tell you with confidence, I have retroactively turned into something I love about her because that is based in
wow.
commitment. Because I've already committed to accepting and loving her no matter what through the blessing.
Mm,
And so, what's the point of me trying to change her? What's the point of me trying to mold her into the same version of me and that likes all the things that I am that is exactly like me? It's pointless. It's
mhm,
boring. And
mhm,
so over time, I've just kind of relinquished that and be like, you know what? What if her not liking me saying I love you or her saying I love you to me means that her words weigh more, that they're more powerful and they're not
that's
cheaply
right.
bought?
Yeah.
And what if her version of I love you is acts of service, is her showing up day in and day out to be there by my side
Mm,
and
mm,
never running away? What if her not liking to hold my hands, especially in the beginning, means that our physical intimacy is that much more powerful
mhm,
and means more to me, you know? What if her not like being adventurous and wanting to travel the world and do all these crazy things? And what if that means that we can create a beautiful home life together and we can just be content with the life that we are building together, right?
yeah.
And so on the surface, it could sound like, oh, I'm just like a lot of couples do this. They justify or they
Right.
rationalize why their husband is
Mhm.
a terrible husband. They say things like, "Oh, my husband is so amazing. He's so incredible." They post on Facebook, right, all the time. It's like, okay, like why do you gotta tell the world? Just tell him that if he's so amazing, right? And it kind of feels like rationalizing why my husband sucks or my wife sucks. But let me tell you, it's not. What it is absolute acceptance in practice because I'm going to have to accept her eventually in the spirit world or before then. And I can either suffer my whole life, which most couples do, by the way, and just trying to change her and say why I'm right and you're wrong. And that's just ego trying to inflate itself and saying, but I'm right. But I'm right and you're wrong and you should, which I did for a long time, by the way. It's like, but you should say I love you. Because
Mm,
why? Because that's what couples do. They say I love you. Says who? She's always says that. Says who? It's like, but that's what you do because I want you to say I love you. She's like, but why do you need me to say I love you? How do you? She always says that. She's like, why do you not know I love you? Like
oh,
she says that.
wow.
She says, do I not have evidence already that I love you? Why do you need to hear that? You know? And so I
Wow.
was like, man, you're freaking right. You're
She's
freaking right. And
right.
so my ego was just like, but I'm right. And so now it's like, I'm going to have to accept this someday and I can suffer through it like most couples, or I could just be like, you know what? That's how you are and that's beautiful. It's amazing, which is not
Mhm,
tolerance. Let me make that clear. Tolerance is to quote unquote accept somebody and then not encourage them to change and not
mm,
empower them to be different and to grow. Acceptance is something you do as a good parent would to a child of unconditionally loving them, being stern with them, but also accepting that that's where they are right now and they'll
mhm,
grow through it. And I believe in you and I encourage you and empower you, but it's not based in fear. It's not based in anger or resentment or judgment. That's real acceptance. It's not tolerance, right? We don't tolerate each other. My wife and I are like, we're really honest with each other. Like, I don't like that. Like, you got to stop that. You got to change, you know? But we'll do it in a way that's not based in like anger or fear. You know, it's
mm.
just like, you should, like, I wish you would do that differently. And we just like say it up front. It's not like heavy or like weighted. Like, sometimes she like wears these weird, like, homeless pants. She wears clothes that I think look like homeless clothes. I'm like, you look like a homeless person. I'll just like say that to her all the time. And it's just funny. It's like, you look like a homeless person. Stop wearing that, you know? But I won't do it in like a mean way. And then she takes it with a smile and she's like, okay, fine, I'll go change. You know, like this kind of thing. Which you would never say in a normal like that's not something a normal you would say in normal settings, but we do it because it's funny and we're just completely honest with each other. And she accepts that that's how I am. I'll just say stuff like that, you know, like you gained weight or something like all this stuff and just poke fun
Oh
at
my
her.
God.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Anywho,
that's beautiful in its quirky way. I love it that it's not heavy.
no,
You
it's
can say these things without making a big deal out of it.
hilarious. It's so funny. My son was like, who's, it was like a few months ago. He was like, who's you know how kids are. They ask a random question. He was like, who's the fattest person in our family?
Oh,
And then without skipping a beat, I was like, mommy's the fattest person in the family.
you know,
Oh yeah, 100%. That's what I do.
but she is not
No, no, she's
anywhere
not.
near.
No, no, she's not. But she's not. She's actually lost weight since the blessing, which is weird, phenomenal. Uh,
Wow.
After 3 kids, she's somehow like 2 pounds under her blessing wedding dress weight.
Oh
Uh,
my gosh.
yeah, so this is all just quirky, personal examples of what I believe the power of the blessing is that it doesn't like everything that believe should or shouldn't be is like in the context of absolute love, unconditional love. It's like why can't we just create a meaningful, loving relationship no matter who we are? If our foundations are there, if our foundations are the same. And so for us, it is fundamentally that we're creating a blessed family that is rooted in Heavenly Parent, God, in the blessing. That's our mission, like end mission. And the way we get there is different. The way that we day to day wise, we navigate life different in different ways. But our
Right.
end mission has always been the same. And so with that end mission in being our common denominator, it doesn't matter anything, like nothing else matters. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mhm.
nothing matters. Like what I should do this with my life and like it doesn't matter. She doesn't work. I do all the work. I don't cook. She does all the cooking. Like I manage 1000% of our finances. She has no idea what's going on financially. She's never touched a check in her whole life, right? That's just how we operate because that works for us, you know?
Mhm.
And so what I'm saying is like day to day, it looks very different from each other. It looks very different from other couples, but our end mission is the same because we're contributing to the same thing, the
Mhm.
same meaningful thing. And this is what people get tripped up, I think, when they're finding a matching partner, is they're all wrapped up in the end mission looking the same, but also they're trying to figure out the path to get there,
Mhm.
right? And when I say the path to get there, I mean things like what are you going to do with your career? Where are you going to live? What language you speak? How many kids are you going to have? All of these things are part of the road, the journey to get to the destination. But what I'm saying is that the journey itself doesn't. You don't have to think about that because you can't dictate that kind of thing. If you're going to be, sit here and believe in the divinity of God's blessing and the spirituality of the blessing, we cannot micromanage spirituality.
Mhm.
We cannot micromanage God's macro cosmic management because God has been working much longer than we have to create what we have in this universe, what we have in this blessing, what we have in this movement. And for us to sit here and say, like, yeah, I want to control the journey to get to
Mhm.
the destination. I want to control where we live, what we do with our time. It's like you can try, but good luck. Good luck finding someone that matches every single criteria along the way. And so
Right.
if I were to summarize like this conversation from my view is like find somebody that shares the end mission with you, not the
Mhm.
how to, because one of you is going to be more at home, one of you is going to be working more. That's usually how it works out. One of
Mhm.
you is going to be more mission oriented, more churchy, and one of you is going to be more home oriented. That's usually how it works out in the long term, especially after people have children, right? One of you is going to be more involved in your kid's life, and one of you is not, right? Physically, like time wise speaking. One
Right.
of you is going to be more involved in the church, and one of you like all that kind of stuff. If you psychoanalyze the matching and think like, are we 100% aligned in how we're going to spend our time and where we're going to live? Is like, I don't think that's productive because you're not going to find someone. Chances
Mhm.
are you're not going to
Mhm.
find someone in
Right.
our small pool of people that are going to 100% match all of your criteria. But if you find someone that has the general end goal of you, that's it. That's what
Right.
we're talking about.
Mhm.
And the opposite sexual organ, like there's
That's
basically two things.
necessary.
There's like basically two things. Do they have the opposite sex organ as you? And do you have the same end mission?
That's yeah. Well put. I really like that. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. There's just so many instances where people do get wrapped up in how the journey should look like. And I really, really enjoy that statement. Just worry about your end goal. Is it the same? Does it look similar? And the journey is going to look very different. And your story with your wife is actually very powerful because when I talk to a lot of candidates, obviously we're talking about Western candidates. And the differences in Western and Eastern culture is vast. It's a lot. And so if you're talking to someone and you could just be missing out on a perfect potential of a spouse if you're just looking at them through your own lens and the way our society in Western America views what that should look like.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, there's a brother I'm talking to that I'm going to send this episode to, who's in a matching process for quite a while, and kind of in his head, right? I mean, he's very much in his heart, but he's also in his head. And
Hmm,
if even if it's like a little bit of just the head talking, the head starts making up all these things. Like, what if there's someone better,
it's
right?
true.
What if there's someone better? Even though it feels right, but what if? All these things, you
Mm,
know? And I think that for him and for these kinds of situations, I look at this spouse and like she's a beautiful soul. Like she's just like she has, I think, everything that he needs in terms of the
mm,
um like the groundedness and the external, I mean, sorry, like the internal solidity and tranquility and peace and God and presence and peacefulness. And like she just has a very like calm and peaceful face, you know. And I was just like, this is a good woman. Like just go get matched her. Like this is how I feel, right? I haven't told him this yet. I was like, just say yes. Just say yes. And when you commit, and then what happens is that you stop utilizing all this excess bandwidth that we tend to do when we're single. There's an egregious amount of bandwidth that is given to finding a spouse, right?
hmm,
From looking around to matching processes to just the excess thinking, the subconscious thinking, right? Then there's the
hmm,
active thinking, then there's all the prayers and conditions and the conversations. And then as soon as you commit, you are essentially relinquishing all of that mental real estate and subconscious thinking. It just like evaporates. And then you can just kind of hone it all in and focus on creating the relationship that you want. Then you have
hmm,
focus. It's very liberating. It's a very liberating feeling that I've heard from many, many people when they just committed. You know, it's kind of like finding your dream home or like landing in your, because then you like stop thinking about like, oh, where should we move? You're kind of going through that right now, right? It's
right.
like you just moved to Michigan, and
Mhm.
now you're not like, well, should we move to back to Florida? You're just like, all right, we're in Michigan. Right? It's like let's make
It's
this
true.
our home.
Yeah, let's make the
Yeah,
best out of it.
this
Yeah,
is our home. And so now you've freed up all of this headspace
that's
to just
right.
focus on like this is where home is now. Let's make this home.
Hmm,
Yeah.
hmm.
Okay, so do you wanna give us some closing words?
Wow. I think we covered a lot. And actually, I'm really grateful for this episode because as you were talking, a lot has been coming back to
Likewise.
me about the root
Mm,
of the blessing. And the end goal of our movement is never a church. It's never, it's a way of life. And even aside from the blessing, I think there's a lot of talk and a lot of noise about the providence and True Mother and all these things. But I realized that the most at peace families and couples that I know are those that don't get wrapped up in the little bumps on the road in their journey. It's like mother's end goal is beautiful, blessed families where God can dwell in. That's also my goal.
mm,
And she's saying this is one way, other people are saying another way. But if we all get there, it's still the the result that we're all hoping for.
mm,
And I think, yeah, and when people approach the matching and the blessing, and it's we don't want to get frustrated by there's no one out there. Then checking off our boxes, no one checks off all the boxes. It's gonna be impossible. There will never be someone that'll check off all the boxes. But it's true. You really just had to focus on what is it that they want as an end result of this marriage and this blessing. And is this the same as what you want? And and I'm kind of like you in this regard, Benji. Just get mashed to them.
Mhm.
Or at least just talk to them. You never know. A
Mhm.
profile is just a profile. You got to talk to the person. You got to let God work. You got to see what they're about and and take the dive.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are my last
Yeah, thank
thoughts
you.
on this.
Yeah, thanks for wrapping it up with the blessing, the significance of it. Yeah, we got to go back to the basics. I definitely feel you about the cultural differences. I can feel that. You know, we don't like to generalize and make stereotypes, but it's true. Like, there's a very different mentality that, generally speaking, I have to say that disclaimer, generally speaking. But, yes, I get it. Generally speaking, there is a very different cultural narrative in the West versus the East or in
Mhm.
Africa. Or, yeah, it's palpable. It's very clear and it's subtle because on the surface we all look similar, like we're all kind of racially ambiguous in our movement, and we all kind of, I mean, like the second gen, right? The BCs, we have very much similarities, but in a cultural way, it's very different, and that's the beauty. That's the beauty that we're talking about. That's the beauty that, I mean, Jesus. Sorry for my language. Jesus H Christ on a stick. We have the most beautiful tradition of culturally marrying people
Yeah.
interculturally. It's beautiful. It's
Mhm.
father's vision. It's mother's vision of changing this world long term through lineage. That's through lineage because of the vision of what the children and the grandchildren will do. Not just that, what the couples will do in their relationship through the process of learning how to accept and love each other unconditionally despite their differences. It's beautiful. I was sitting on in Heaven G Burger during this whole one Chongwon thing, the events, right? You were there. I saw you in the stadium for a second. And we were sitting in Heavenly Burger. There's a long line that takes about an hour to get to have a seat because this is a lot of people here. And while we're sitting, there's a African delegation that cuts the entire line, right? And sits down at a table without like looking at anyone. They just sit down. And the Korean staff at the Heaven G Burger were like, you can't do that. You have to leave. You have to go to the back of the light. And they were like, no, like this. And we're just watching them, right? Like, what's going on? And they're like, no, you have to leave. You know, Koreans can get pretty aggressive. And guess what? Africans can too. And so they're like, you have to leave. No, you can't sit here. You have to go. And these Africans are like, no, this is our place. We can go. Like, we can stay here. And then we were watching this. I was amazed because of the culture clash. I wasn't like judgmental. I was just in awe that a culture like this exists, right? I don't know if it's an African thing. I have no idea. But for some reason, this group of African brothers felt it was culturally normal to sit down, cut the entire line. And after being told by the manager even came out, they were like, no, we're not leaving. And eventually the boss lady came out and they listened to her because she got real raw with them. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that culture exists, that they just will like come in here and be like, no, my culture, not your culture, my culture's, to another country. And that's beautiful. Like, that's so beautiful. It's so beautiful to me that that level of difference can exist in this world, that
Yeah.
exists. And then your father was like, you know what? African, Korean, put them together. African Japanese, which in my humble opinion, African Japanese, the absolute like most different and contrasting cultures that can exist.
Yeah.
It's like that culture of just like I'm gonna come in here, cut everyone, and sit down versus the Japanese culture that's like wouldn't even comprehend, that kind of
Right.
culture. And then Chufala was like, let's match them. Let's put them together. God bless you, Japanese African couples, by the way, if you have parents of that descent. Uh,
Oh,
it's
beautiful.
beautiful. It's so
Yeah.
beautiful because when they do it right, right? And you're talking about this idea of learning to love, learning to be unconditional, so learning to accept through the blessing. When they do it right, it's the most beautiful thing on the planet because it's
Mhm.
absolutely based in just absolute acceptance. Absolutely, like, you know what? I love you. I think it's funny. It's hilarious how you are. Like, you're just different, and that's funny, and it's amazing, and you just enjoy life together like that. It's beautiful. And so, at the root of the blessing is this idea that is way beyond anything we've comprehended. It's beyond what we perceive as happiness as couples.
Mm.
It's beyond our
Mm.
individual fulfillment. It's thinking generationally. It's thinking our great grandchildren, whom which we will never even meet, and thinking about their impact in this world. We're thinking about God's heart, which you've brought into this conversation too. Like, what does God feel about waiting and being patient and the fruition of this blessing? It's considering, Mother's heart, who is here with us right now and understands Heavenly Parent to so much extent that she is just endlessly working her tail off as someone in her 80s from North Korea. Like
Yeah.
that's not an easy task. Like we don't give her enough credit. I mean, what an
Mm.
80-year-old North Korean woman does this type of thing or has the bandwidth to even consider, trying to have a world dominating movement of 8 billion people in her lifetime. Like that's no small task, but
Mm.
she's up for that task because I think that's how much she believes in this blessing. Like if we were to
Mm.
gauge our belief in the blessing and if we were to gauge mother's belief in this blessing as the top of the spectrum, at the end of the
Mm.
spectrum, I think that should be our goal. Like, we should believe in Heavenly Parent's heart and providence. We should believe in this blessing to the extent that Mother does, that she
Mm.
can't even help feel like, just give it to everyone. Like,
Yeah.
I think she can't help that heart. Like, we can't, like, I can't, she can't help but feel like we need to give this to everyone while I'm here, you know?
Yeah. That's good.
Okay. Brothers and sisters, it's been chill having you guys. Please feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions, comments. We love hearing from you. Also, share this with one person in your team. That's our only ask because this podcast only spreads through word of mouth. We are just doing it to help people out. And so, if it is helpful or inspiring or whatever, share it with one person. And it makes a big difference in terms of our reach. So, God bless
Hmm.
you all. Thank you, Cathy.
Thank you.
See you later.